Hello everyone and welcome to a new weekly overview. As usual, we'll start with the crypto instruments, with the Forex instruments, then indices, and last but not least, we'll go over crypto ones. So let me share my screen real quick, and as usual, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below. I'll keep an eye on it. I guess now you can see my screen, yeah. So with the Forex ones, let me check the comments. Hello Suki, hope you're doing good. Hello Soda and Abhai. Let's get the market. Yeah, let's do it. As usual, let's get started. Before we do, cheers. I'll start with the first two or three and I'll check the comments then. Here we go. So we start with the DXY as usual to feel the overall market, to know where we are in the market. And you can see that from last week, we were inside this big range and we are still around this area. This monthly candle is a very important candle as it will decide if we will have the break of this entire range or we will have a rejection. As mentioned last week, we can still trade higher to fill the previous wick and we are currently filling it. So let's see if we will get the break of the range, which, for example, just like here, we broke it upward, we traded higher, and here as well, we broke it upward, now became a support, and so on. So we are currently still around this upper bound. That's why we are speculating a bearish movement on the XY, right? So, of course, unless we have an aggressive movement upward, then it would become a support and a movement further upward would be expected. Now, if we trade higher, we will find this supply zone. As you can see, an aggressive movement down from it, and this one is still fresh. So we'll be also looking for sell setups around this area. But for now, let's take it step by step, right? Around the resistance, looking for sell setups. We currently are retesting the last gray area. As mentioned last week, we had a break below this area, so we were expecting something like this. However, it didn't happen. That's why we always wait for extra confirmation and trigger that the bears are taking over, which didn't happen as mentioned last week. For those who watched the previous week's episode, we were waiting for something like this, a break below this, a channel to signal the next impulse movement. Then it would be an impulse correction and impulse again. However, we are currently experiencing an overextended correction movement, and we are currently testing the previous wick and so on. So for now, from daily time frame, this area is acting as a resistance area. So if price trades lower, it might hold the price up, and then we will see, or we're expecting a retest till the upper supply zone. Give me a moment. Okay. Cheers, Sanjit. Okay. So that's basically it for the XY. We were waiting for the bears to take over, which didn't happen. Instead, we had a trend continuation setup, as we clearly see here. We didn't have the break below the orange trend line. However, we had a break above this, like here we go. So price retested this lower, here we go, this lower channel, and we had a trend continuation pattern. Of course, we even broke this upper channel and traded higher. That's the power of always waiting for extra confirmation. I was personally waiting for this break below this area to confirm that the bears are taking over. Now, if you check EURUSD, which is exactly the opposite, as mentioned last week, we had a head and shoulders pattern forming, and if the XY trades higher, then EURUSD would break this one and trade lower, which is what happened. So anyway, let's start from the daily time frame. We were around this upper area, this resistance area previously acting as support, also the previous lows, price retested, and the upper channel in blue. I always have USD on my watch list, so we went over it last week if you remember. So impulse, correction, impulse. We were inside this correction waiting for the next impulse movement lower, or as mentioned last week, if the XY breaks downward, then USD would break upward. In this case, we'll be looking for trend following bust tops. However, it didn't happen. Instead, we had another impulse movement downward. If you zoom into H1 time frame, we can see that the head and shoulders is broken downward. We can see it better from from H4 time frame. We had this break. This was our trigger to enter. It depends on you if you enter trades on H4 or H1. That doesn't really matter. The idea is still the same. So the entry would be here, the stop loss would be here, or if you want to go for the shorter term one from H1, and we are currently holding a sell, we'll keep holding it until a bullish reversal setup gets activated. In this case, we'll close our sell and buy. The reason why we are going to buy is because price is currently sitting around a demand zone, and it's also this support zone from higher time frame. If we zoom out to weekly time frame, we can see it very clearly. Multiple rejections from this area. Even if you zoom out, we can see it even better. Is the one in blue, so support here multiple times, and we are currently trading inside this big channel and now around the lower band of it. So this area is indeed a very strong area unless we see a break below it. So unless we see this, we are looking for buy setups. We are expecting a rejection from here unless we see a break downward. In this case, we'll be looking for trend following sell setup. It would be a trend continuation sell. It would mean that the bears are still in control, managing to make lower lows, just like previously. So a low, an impulse movement pushing lower, a low impulse movement, and so on. So we didn't have this impulse movement yet, breaking below this low. So until we have it, this will be looking for a sell, just like here, just like the previous highs we saw previously. Now we are speculating a bullish reversal. We might see a higher low, and then we trade higher. But again and again, for those who already know me, we always wait for the buyers or the sellers to take over before we take action. So just like chess, wait for your opponent to make the first move and then react accordingly. Don't predict. Don't try to catch the exact top at bottom. So that's basically it on EURUSD. We are currently bearish, waiting for a bullish reversal setup. As mentioned last week, here we go, this arrow here that we are looking for buy stops. We might still trade lower before we trade higher. So I don't really see any bullish reversal setups for now. So let's see if we get a consolidation just like previously, and then we will be buying on its break upwards. Let me check the comments real quick. Will you tell about GBPUSD also today? It's high impact news, of course. We'll check it out. Jaya, hope you're doing good. I can remember you from last week. GBPUSD, of course. Excellent. Thank you, live in the UK. So let's continue. Let's move forward. Of course, I'll be adding GBPUSD. Let's go over first USDCAD and gold and USDJPY. So you know what? I add it now, not to forget it. Okay, so like it's now at the bottom, as you can see. So anyway, let's move it fast to the top so that I don't forget it. Okay, as you can see, we've got many Forex pairs because I always like to update the previous analysis. It would be a good practical example, right? So like for example, like I always update and then like mention what I'm looking for. Then the next week we'll be updating the previous week and so on, right? So yeah, on USDCAD, if you remember, we were around the lower band. We were looking for buy setups, right? So we were here last week and we were speculating a bullish reversal from here unless we see a big bearish movement lower, breaking below the support. In this case, the support will become resistance, and we'll be looking for sell setups on the retest. For now, we are still around the support area, so we were speculating a bullish movement upward, right? Of course, I will do into lower time frames, but for now, from daily time frame, we know that price is currently approaching this resistance area, which is this horizontal resistance, as we clearly see multiple rejections from it. Previously was acting as a support area, broken downward, and starting from here, it's acting as a resistance area. So as price retested, we can't really know because it's a big resistance. That's why we don't sell blindly. We zoom into lower time frames and look for extra confirmation, just like what we did here to enter our buy, here to enter our buy, and previously, like 2 weeks ago, here to enter our sell. So now price approaching this resistance area, we'll be looking for sell setups, knowing that USDCAD can still dive inside the zone, test this supply zone, fill it, before we trade lower, okay? But we are looking for sell setups starting from now, just like previously, or vice versa. We had a support and we had this big demand zone. That's why we are looking for buy stop starting from here, knowing that USDCAD can still trade lower before trading higher, just like here, for example. Okay, if you zoom into H4, as I mentioned last week, we want not only a break above the previous high, but also a break above the channel to prove to us that the buyers are strong enough to make the shift in momentum from bearish to bullish. So the trend lines are for overall buyers to know or to feel who is currently in control, who is currently pushing. For example, previously we were bullish, and when this trend line is broken downward, it signals that the bears, here we go, we also have a channel or wedge pattern that the bears are taking over. Okay, so I want a break below it to confirm that. And from H1 we can see that the last high is broken upward. Again and again, depends on how you on how you trade it. This particular one, we can see that we were bearish previously, making low lows and lower highs, and here we go, the bears here failed to make an aggressive low just like previously. Instead, still made a low but not as strong as before. As you can see, this impulse is small compared to the previous impulse movements. The impulse movements were getting smaller in size, which means that the bears are exhausted, and finally the bulls kicked in and broke above this area. So we traded higher, and we are currently approaching this resistance and supply. As mentioned previously, we might still see this movement upward to fill the supply from daily time frame. In this case, anyway, we're looking for sell setup starting from now, but I don't really have anything to mention. So, the opposite of EURUSD, I'm still waiting for example, a consolidation and then a break below it, right, or any bearish reversal setup. So you know what, I'll keep it for now, like for the reference for next week. Let me check. Okay, GBPJPY, I guess I have it on my list. Let me check. Yeah, here we go. We have GBPJPY here. So like we've got multiple JPY pairs. If you remember last week, we went over them quickly because like most probably they are correlated. So let's move forward to gold. As mentioned last week, as we approach this area here, we'll be looking for sell setups, right? And because we've got this trend line here, a resistance area, which is this one in purple, previously acting as a resistance, broken upward, broken downward again, now acting as a resistance area, unless, if you remember, unless we have a break above this area in green, which is the last high, right? So unless we have this break, then we'll have a shift in momentum and we'll be looking for buy setups on the retest. But for now, we are still looking for sell setups. It would be an impulse correction, and we're expecting the next impulse movement lower. As I mentioned from H4, that for the bears to take over from a long-term or medium-term perspective, we need to see a break below this entire range. Now we have it. It depends on you if you would like to trade the H4. I personally don't. Okay, so because like it will result with a big stop loss and a bad risk to reward ratio. What I'll be waiting for to have a smaller stop loss and a better RRR is to wait for a retest. If this happens, then I'll be looking for sell setups on lower time frames, for example a channel or any bearish setup like a double top. In this case, I would have a smaller stop loss, thus a bigger risk to reward ratio. So for now, something away from gold, unless like you took the entry. Let me make auto. As mentioned last week, as we approach this upper area, we'll be looking for sell setup. So the exact same logic now. If we retest this area, we'll be looking for a bearish reversal setup. Of course, gold can still trade lower from here without making the retest. Okay, GBPJPY, let me check it out. Where we are, here we go. So on GBPJPY also, I guess someone requested this one last week, and we went over it quickly, and I mentioned that the GBPJPY is following the pattern or the shape of EURUSD and NZDUSD. However, I would prefer NZDUSD and EURUSD. which we saw previously. This is EURUSD, the head and shoulders here, and this is NZDUSD. Here we go. Okay, so this is NZDUSD. We were waiting for the bears to take over by breaking below this area here. Anyway, let's go over GBPUSD now, since you requested it. But it wasn't the best setup for me, because I got this zone here that might hold the price upward. As you can see, like price broke it downward anyway. So here we go. Like if you remember, from like 2 or 3 weeks, we had this setup here, and now we've got also a head and shoulders pattern formed, just like EURUSD. This is our neckline. We broke it downward and we traded lower. For now, we are currently trading, or because we broke below the support, for now we are sitting inside this floor. This is our floor, this is our ceiling. So on the retest here, we'll be looking for sell setups. Okay, I don't have anything to mention for now, because we didn't have this retest yet, because we are currently sitting in the middle of this support and resistance. This is how it looks from weekly time frame. Let me show you. Here we go. So this is our support area, which is a massive zone around 1.2, 1.207. Multiple rejections from it previously, and price is currently retesting it. So we'll be looking for buy setups. And this is our support zone in blue. We can see also multiple rejections from it. So that's basically it for now. Since the blue zone, the blue support is broken, I'll go for this one as our next support. And yeah, I don't really have anything to mention on lower time frames. That's our last like minor high, but I would not like to buy around this area, around this resistance. I would prefer to see a movement downward. I would prefer to see GBPUSD diving inside or around the support area before I look for buy setups. For now, we are clearly bearish, low lows and lower highs from a short-term perspective. Here we go, a low low, a big impulse, a correction, low low, lower highs. This is our last high. Okay, so if broken upward, we'll be speculating the correction is going to start, and then we'll be looking for the next impulse movement lower, or waiting for this to happen, and then we'll be looking for buy setups. On USDJPY, before we continue, let me check the comments. Okay, first, hi, are you using SMC concepts? No, I'm just sticking to basic market structure analysis, as you clearly see. Okay, can you analyze EURCAD, please? Of course, like I tried to add it. Let me check. Okay, I don't have it here. Oh yeah, I already have it here, as you can see. Okay, so we'll go over it. But like I'll try to make it quicker, because we've got a lot. I'm sorry if I'm talking fast. If I'm talking fast, like for you, and you are not able to understand me well, let me know. I will slow down. Okay, but like I'm trying to be as efficient as possible for you to benefit the most out of the session, so to cover as many cases as possible. Okay, so let me know in the comments if I'm talking too fast or it's fine. Okay, so for USDJPY, we can clearly see that we are still around a very strong supply zone. If you zoom out, we can see it from last week. As I mentioned, this is an aggressive movement downward. That's a supply zone. Of course, if broken upward, then the movement to the next supply would be expected, which would be around 144. For now, around the supply, we are still speculating a bearish movement from here, but we'll be looking for the setups. We don't sell blindly as usual. If you zoom into daily time frame, if you remember last week, we were looking for buy setups here. But anyway, now let's focus on the current price. We can see price getting stuck inside the consolidation, which is what I would like to see on USD, USDCAD, and so on, as I showed you previously. So USDJPY has been very clean lately. As you can see, low lows, lower highs, and broke above the previous high, and we traded higher. So if you apply the same logic, this is your previous low now. This is your major low, but this is a low that you can sell on spike downward. Okay, so If you zoom in lower, you can see that we've got a trend line, and we had this one on our watch list last week, if you remember that. Here we go. Here's the drawing from last week. I don't change the drawings, I don't change anything, because I have a different layout for this specific session. So this way it would be a good practical example to update it live here. So we have a trend line as we saw last week. We were waiting, price was around here, I guess, because we started the projection from here. So we were waiting for this to happen, for price to form a new swing low around the trend line, and then we will be selling on spec downward. So now since this happened, I'll adjust my analysis. As you can see, I have my alert here for those who can see it. And okay, so for now, this is our last low. So I'm still waiting for a break below this area to enter my sell on H1, or you can even see it from M30. But let's go to H1 to see it even cleaner. We've got this trend line here, right? So engulfing this overall movement upward. Let's go to orange, copy paste. Here's our offset. That's it. It's appearing on M. Yes, fantastic. Don't want to see it here. Here we go. If you go to M30, that's it, right? So now a stock inside a flat movement, which means that the bulls aren't strong enough as before to push price higher. We had our impulse, a small correction, a bigger impulse, and we are currently stuck here, which means that the buyers aren't strong enough to make a big impulse just like this one, movement upward. Okay, of course, it's just an early alert. The buyers are still in control, but for the sellers to take over, we need to see a break below this low here. Okay, so I'm waiting for this. Of course, when the sell is activated, my entry would be here. It depends if you would like to enter immediately or you would like to wait for a retest till the zone again. The stop loss would be above the previous high, which might be here now if we trade lower, and we target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio at least to have an edge over the market from a risk management perspective. This is what I'm waiting for. Meanwhile, USDJPY can still go flat here, multiple swings before breaking downward, or break this one upward. In this case, we'll no longer be looking for sell setups. In this case, a movement higher and higher would be expected. Okay, let me check the comments. Quite interesting. However, my concern is with interest rate hike. I think the monthly support on EURUSD, GBPUSD will be broken with the volatility that can happen. Yeah, maybe if the XY breaks the resistance upward, which has been broken, right? So if anyway, let me show you on the chart. So on the XY, we had a break above the resistance, and for now, the next resistance area is our is a supply zone, right? Let me show you. Here we go. If you zoom out, this is our next rejection area, which is a supply, and we also got one rejection from it previously. So yeah, if the XY keeps on trading higher, then of course we'll be seeing EURUSD breaking the support, GBPUSD, and so on. However, I will not say like breaking the support just yet, because if the XY trades higher, EURUSD would be diving inside the support, GBPUSD would be approaching the support. Okay, so let's take it step by step. Yeah, we might see one more bullish movement on the XY, thus one more bearish movement on EURUSD, which will be diving inside the support. So this is still inside our support area, and GBPUSD, here we go. You can also see it approaching and diving inside the support area. So like this is what we're looking for now, unless of course the XY breaks the supply output and keeps on trading higher and higher to approach the next resistance, then of course we can see the exact opposite for EURUSD, GBPUSD breaking below the support area. Okay, so an interesting week. Let's see how it goes. Okay, great. I'm glad that you can understand me well. Can you show us how you take entries? I just showed you on USDJPY, and if you were last week, you saw multiple entries. But for now, okay, so if you want, I will show you on USDJPY as well. So this is what I'm waiting for to sell. Here we go. Where is it? From M30. Yeah, this is it. Okay, and if you want, previously or last week we had this one on USDJPY. So it depends on you, like on your time expectations, on your trading plan, if you would like to enter immediately after a candle close, the stop loss is below the previous low, right? Or you would like to wait for a retest, right, of the zone. So like these are the two possible entries that you can go for. But if you want as a start to keep it simple, you can enter immediately at the candle close if it's not too big. So for example, if this candle is here, of course, like skip it, it would result with a bad risk to reward ratio, right? So here we go, and we target at least 2R, which would be here. So let's keep it simple for now. This is it. We have an edge over the market from a risk management perspective, entry, stop loss below the previous low, and target 2R. Okay. Anyway, we'll try to see more examples now as we go. Suki, of course, we'll go over Nasdaq, USD 500, USD 100, and so on. Hopefully, just after the forex pairs. So the forex pairs, then we'll go over the indices. Here we go, as you can see here, the indices, and then last but not least, we'll go over the crypto ones. So that's it. US. Okay, I'm not sure what this means. Suki, let me know. Oh, okay. So like you mean this one for Nasdaq? Yes, yeah. Nima, gold, of course, we'll go over gold. We went over gold. So like now when I finish the session, you'll be able to watch the recording. Okay, so to save time, I will not do it again. CADJPY, if that you can do that one. Of course, I have it on my list, as you can see. Can we see the charting of GBPJPY? Hello, Alexander. Yeah, we added GBPJPY. Someone requested it, so we'll go over it in a bit. Hadi, hope you're doing good. Cheers, mate. So let's move forward. Okay, so this is for the indices, USDJPY. Now we've got multiple JPY pairs, I guess. Yeah. So I'll go over these ones quickly. Okay, let's start with GBPJPY since many of you requested this one. Last week, if you remember, someone requested GBPJPY. You can also watch the previous analysis to see the previous session to see it. So on GBPJPY, we're waiting for the bears to take over by breaking below this low. So we had this break and we traded lower. So for those who now asked about the entry, again and again, it depends on you. If you would like to enter immediately, here we go. After a candle close below this area, we want it to be a big candle, and the stop loss would be above the previous high, and you target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio, which would be here. Okay, so this is our entry for GBPJPY. Someone asked about it last week, and we went over it. Now we were looking for sell setups because we were around a resistance area. Okay, so here we go. It's also a supply, as we had an aggressive movement down from it. So that's our entire supply. That's our entire supply zone. That's why we were looking for sell setups. Now GBPJPY is approaching a support area. We can clearly see anyway also from zoomed in picture that we've got multiple rejections from this area. Now it's broken upward, and we also have what? Our impulse, a correction, an impulse, and now a correction. So now we are looking for the next impulse movement upward. We also had this previous low, so we might still, and as you can see, price almost tested it before we trade higher, but we don't buy blindly. We always look for extra confirmation and trigger before we pull the trigger, because meanwhile GBPJPY can still break it downward and validate this bullish trend now from a shorter term perspective. In this case, we'll be looking for this sell, and as price approaches this area here we go, we'll be looking for buy setups. So the trading plan is, we previously looked for sell, now looking for a buy. If broken downward, then we'll be looking for a sell, and then we'll be looking for a buy. Okay, this is it. Let's take it step by step. Now around the support and looking for a buy setup. Okay, so this is basically it. This is the last high. Okay, so now I'm waiting for example, this to happen. In this case, the bulls would take over. Of course, when this happens, we go long here, The stop loss would be below the previous low, which might be here, might be, I don't know really now where, because it isn't formed yet. And we target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio. Okay, so like it's basically the opposite of what we did previously. Okay, let me check the comments real quick. Okay, sure, Alexander. Hope you enjoy. Like, yes, yeah. If I'm not mistaken, you were the one you requested GBPJPY last week, right? So let me know if yeah, you were the one. Okay, let's move forward for the remaining JPY pairs. Let's go over it quickly, right? Because like all of them, like most probably moves in the same direction. Okay, so if you remember last week, we went over CHFJPY, AUDJPY, and CADJPY, right? So this is it on CHFJPY. We are around a weekly demand zone. Give me a moment. Okay, we're around, what is it? Okay. We're around a weekly supply zone, and it's also the all-time high, because if you zoom out, you can see that from at least from like a 1993, 1994, this is the highest point that CHFJPY ever reached, and we are currently retesting this area, right? That's why we are looking for sell setups. Okay, we know that we are overall bullish. We are obviously bullish, making higher highs, higher lows, right? But we are now speculating a bearish movement from here, and at least even if we have this movement, a correction before the bulls take over again, it's fine for us, and it will already hit our take profit, right? Just like previously here. So if you zoom into daily time frame, we can see a big rising broadening wedge. We are currently around the upper bound, of course, as price retests this lower bound, which I showed you from weekly. We are bullish, right? And as price retests this area, we'll be looking for and following past setups. For now, if you remember, we were looking for sell setups, knowing that such as JPY can sit trade higher, test the all-time high before we trade lower, and the upper trend line in brown. So we're waiting for the bears to take over by breaking below the previous low. Then this zone was from last week. So the entry would be after breaking below the zone, and here we go. So the stop loss would be above the previous high, which is around here, and like as you can see, it's like almost reached 0.9. And like, to be honest, I moved my stop loss to break even. I moved my stop loss to break even, and now it just kicked me out. Kick me out on break even if you want. And for those who didn't move the stop loss to break even, like they can move it like just above this wick here, and we target 1 to 2, at least 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio to have an edge over the market, which would be around this area. Okay, so we're currently holding the sell here with our stop loss just above the wick. For those who didn't didn't move the stop loss to break even previously, and if we trade lower, it would hit our take profit. If we trade higher, like this, for example, we'll be looking for new sell setups, because we are still around sitting around the all-time high and so on. Okay, so that's our setup if you want to see it even better from lower time frames. So this was the entry here, also had a trend line and so on. Okay, that's it for CHFJPY. On AUDJPY, if you remember last week, we had this projection, and like someone asked me about the entry and so on. So like this, like we drew this one from last week. Okay, the reason why we are looking for sell setups is because we are around a very strong resistance area. We can see it from weekly time frame. If you zoom in around the upper bound, upper brown trend line, if you zoom into daily time frame, we can see it even better. Right, here we go. And if you zoom in now, we can see that as price approaches this lower bound, we have a demand zone here, as we had an aggressive movement upward from it. We had this trend line showing us the overall movement, and we have this support, which is also around number 90. So this is indeed a very strong support area. So as price approaches this zone here, I'll definitely be looking for buy setups. We were previously looking for sell setups here, if you remember last week. Okay, let me zoom in more, and here we go. So like I was personally waiting for this to happen, which obviously didn't happen. Okay, so this one didn't happen. Instead, we broke this channel before forming a third swing around it. So, and yeah, now if we retest this area, we'll be looking for sell setups. It would be an impulse, correction, and impulse. The impulse broke below the previous lows here. So now we are technically bearish. And as mentioned from daily, as we approach this area, here we go, we'll be looking for buy setups. We have a demand, a 90 support, lower trend line, and so on. If you move forward, we also had a very similar analysis for CADJPY. If you zoom in, here we go, we rejected this upper area, and as mentioned last week, if you remember, we had a fantastic or a massive resistance zone around 106, a resistance here, a support here, resistance again and again, and like this candle was full like this, and I mentioned that okay, from monthly time frame it isn't closed yet, so like we still have like for now, starting from now, 2 weeks. So we had previously 3 weeks, so we can still have a rejection candle just like this one. Okay, and as you can see, we are now rejecting this area. This is a massive resistance area, as we clearly see. So we were looking, that's why we were looking for sell setups. This is the view from weekly time frame. And as we retest this demand zone, we'll be looking for buy stops because it's also the previous low, unless of course it's broken downwards like this. Then we'll be looking for sell on the retest, and then of course buy setups here. Okay, that's how you prepare your trading plan, right? So you will know what to look for when price approaches a certain area, and of course the reason why. The same analysis we saw on previously what AUDJPY. So demand zone, a lower brown trend line. So this is indeed a very strong area to look for trend following buy setups. For now, what we know is the bears took over and we are now trading lower and lower. As we approach this area, we'll be looking for a buy. If we retest this area, we'll be looking for a sell. Okay, that's basically it. And someone asked about EURCAD. Let me check the comments before I continue. Okay, so deep, right? What are the stars on the chart? Okay, as you can see, I've got two indicators, rich TL and rich foam. So like rich TL basically helps me identify objective swings. So like as an indicator, like I made it back in 2016, 2017, like. For me to identify like the objective swings, because like we all know, if you want to draw a trend line and you give the same chart to like two traders, you most probably see two different results, right? Because everyone sees the chart differently and everyone draws the supply and resistance, their supply and demand, like anything related to the chart, draw it differently because they see it differently, right? So like RHTL solves, I made it for myself first to solve this particular problem, that okay, so like I only consider like a swing low when we have a blue dot, okay, which is as you can see here, and I only consider a swing high when I have a red dot. So when a swing high is broken, which is this red dot, now this is an objective to me. This is an objective like swing high. That this will help me be as objective as possible. Okay, so you can find more info about RHTL from the website. You can see it down there. Okay, it's rhtl.com. Okay, of course, when you join, you get a full course on how to use it and blah blah blah, and of course, like also customized strategies that aren't found anywhere else, only for RHTL. Okay, so like this is basically like, it's not an indicator from space. It doesn't tell you to buy and sell blindly. It's not a signal indicator. It just identifies the swing highs and lows, and we'll be using these objective swings to draw supply and resistance, supply and demand, and obviously obviously trend lines, because it's called rich. Like I'm known as rich, and trend TL stands for trend line. Okay. So this is a quick introduction about HTL. Okay, now let's move forward to EURUSD. Okay, so someone asked about EURCAD. It was on our watch list last week, and we can see that we were waiting for the buyers to break above this one. However, we had like fundamental news, if you remember, on euro. Okay, last week we had this like big wick, as you can see, big wick from the upper side, downside. So when I saw this, I stayed out from EuroCAD. Anyway, for those who entered, like that, we had after it a big aggressive candle upward. So you should probably move your stop loss to break even, and then you kick you out on break even. So now what, right? Now we are still sitting around this lower bound of the support area, which is obviously seen from from H4 time frame. We have been trading inside this channel for for a while now. And well, previously, if you remember, we were looking or we were trading the range, right? So broke above the previous high, traded upward, previous low, traded lower, higher, and lower. And if you remember, like 2 weeks ago, we entered a sell here, right? Yeah, if you want, you can also watch the episodes like from 2 weeks ago and from 3 weeks ago to see when the price was here also. Okay, anyway, like on last week we mentioned this. Now I made the update about this one. So okay, now what? Now we are stuck inside this big range, and we are speculating that the bulls would take over and finally drive the price upward, just like previously, downward, upward, unless we have an aggressive movement lower. In this case, if you have an aggressive movement lower, then a movement to the next support would be expected. Where's our next support? Oops, I clicked by mistake. So next support will be around this area here. So if we break it downward, then a movement lower like this would be expected. In this case, we'll be looking for buy setups here. Okay, let's see the support better from the daily time frame. Here we go. Okay, weekly, daily isn't visible. Let's go to weekly. Okay, here we go. So we've got multiple rejections from this area. That's a support and also obviously a demand zone. Also, the lower trend line in brown acting as an oversold area or non-horizontal support. Okay, so if we break it downward, we'll be looking for buy stops here around 1.32. For now, we're looking for buy setups, and this is now the whole like range. We can see it better from H1 and even better from H4. So this is it, right? This is our range now. So we are waiting for the buyers to break above it to enter our buy. It's like an inverse head and shoulders pattern. So I'm waiting for this. When this happens, the entry would be here, the stop loss would be here, or if a new low is formed before we have the break, and we target a 1 to 2 risk reward ratio, which would be around the upper area. So as price approaches this area here, if we see any kind of rejection, we'll close our buy with around like 1.5 R. I can't really know for now, but we'll update it next week, and we'll target like this 2R, which would be above the channel. But of course, we'll monitor price action here and see how it goes. We'll close our buy and sell and so on. So we'll keep trading the range, right? Sorry. Here we go, until eventually it's broken upwards. We'll be looking for buy here or downward. In this case, we'll be waiting for it to approach the support and look for buy setups. That's it. Okay, so like now we've been like around like 44 minutes. So yes, it's fine because we still have the indices and crypto ones. So let's make it quicker. I will not add new forex pairs, so I'm sorry about it. I'll go for CHF and NZDCAD, okay, which is in my list. Okay, give me a moment to check this one out. Okay, on EURCAD, fantastic. Let's remove this one. Okay. On EURCAD, we know that we are overall bullish, trading inside like a wedge pattern. Here we go, right? So we are, sorry about that. Here we go. So we are looking for buy setups here. We were looking, sorry, for buy setups here and sell setups around the upper area. As you can see, price didn't test the upper area, rejected this supply and traded lower. Anyway, now we are retesting this support area and overall bullish trend, so lower trend line acting as a non-horizontal support. So on the retest here, we'll be looking for buy setups. Of course, unless eventually we have a break below this low, then the bears will take over, break below the support again for it to become a resistance, and also break this wedge pattern downward. When this happens, on the retest of it, we'll be looking for sell setups. Okay, for now, let's take it step by step, approaching at support, looking for buy setups. If you zoom into H4, I can't really add much except that this high was broken, traded higher. If we go lower and lower if you want, we can see that we are currently forming like a falling channel, and this is our last high. We can see it even better from from H1 time frame. So I'll mark this one as the last high, and we'll be waiting for a break above this high here for the bears to take over and make this movement upward. Meanwhile, what I would like to see even better is if we trade lower and lower like this, right, to approach this lower area more and form like a channel here, right? Let's make it in red. Okay, this is what I would like to see better for EURCAD to be more oversold. In this case, it would provide us with a better better buy setup. For now, this is our last high that we are waiting for the break to go long. But I prefer this scenario here. Okay, on NZDCAD, if you remember also like a couple of weeks ago, we had a sell setup here, and I didn't have it on my watch just because we don't really have much updates like starting from here or like since then. We were still bearish, right? So impulse, a correction, and impulse, also a correction and impulse. So we are bearish. Like this is very clean, as you can see. Bulls took over, the bears took over. We traded higher, so we are bearish now. Like from a short-term perspective, from H1. If we go to daily time frame, we can see that NZDCAD is approaching a very strong support area. Here we go around 0.8, 0.81, if sorry, 0.8, 80506. So this entire area here. Anyway, let me draw a zone to show it to you better. So here we go. This entire area, okay, is a strong demand zone and a support area as well. As you can see, multiple rejections from it. But to keep it clean for now, because when I zoom in, I don't want to see big zones. Let's keep it as this. So I'm looking for buy stops. Of course, the lower it gets, the better, the more oversold it will get, and we'll be looking for obviously buy setups. If you zoom in, I can't really add much from H4. From H1, this is it. So I'll be waiting for this to happen, and here we go. Just like previously, or the exact opposite of previously, we had a low broken upward. For now, of course, this is our last high. I will not buy here. Okay, I want to buy around the low, around this area. So if this happens, I'll be waiting for it. In this case, I'll be buying on spike upward. Of course, the lower the buy get activated, the better. So if this happens, and here we go, it would be even better. The lower it gets around the support or the demand, the better. Okay. Okay. Bank Nifty, of course, we'll go over Bank Nifty when we go over the indices. So that's it for the Forex pairs. Now let's move forward to our indices. Do it real quick before jumping into our crypto instruments. So that's it. And yeah, let's start with the US 500 to feel the overall market, the S&P 500. As mentioned last week, we were around a very critical area, and if you remember, I think you know exactly what to look for from last week, that we had this zone, the exact same scenario what happened previously here. So we had a low, broken downward, retested, a classic retest, we traded lower. So we expected a very similar scenario now. a low, broken downward, a retest to it, and we're expecting this unless, as I mentioned last week, unless we have a break above it, which didn't happen. And if we zoom into daily time frame, this is it. Now we are currently retesting this lower bound. We'll see it better from like higher time frame in a bit. But as I mentioned last week, that we have two possible scenarios. Okay, we broke above this high, and we are stuck inside this range, and we're waiting, if you remember, for the bulls to take over by breaking above this zone here, right, to start the next impulse movement upward. So impulse, a correction, then an impulse movement again till the upper bound. However, as I also mentioned, that for the bears to take over, we need to see a break below this area here. And as you can see, it happened, price broke below it, so the bears took over. That's the power of waiting for extra confirmation for the market to make the first move. And as we can see, you can see it even better from lower time frames, but let's not zoom in. We can see that the bears took over by breaking below it, and we traded lower. Okay, so that's our confirmation that now this is a reversal consolidation, and here we go. Okay, so like for those who traded, the entry could be after this momentum candle close, the stop loss would be above the previous high, and you target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio. Now let's do the update, okay, because what we care about is the update for next week. Okay, so from weekly time frame, this is a strong zone around 3.75k or like 3k 7500. This is a demand zone. Okay, if broken downward, then a movement lower would be expected till this one, which is the strongest support area for this chart. Okay, it was the previous all-time high that has been holding for a long period of time. This is it, broken upward, retest, and then aggressive movement upward. So that's also a demand zone. So, but let's take it step by step, right? For now, around this area, we are speculating a bullish movement from here. Unless we break it downward, then we would have an overextended correction. Now, USD 500 is trading inside this shape. Impulse correction, impulse correction. We are currently in this impulse phase, speculating a correction before maybe next impulse movement lower. But let's take it step by step. We are now around the lower bound here. For the buyer to take over, we need, just like as I mentioned on EURUSD and USDCAD, we need a consolidation here and then a break above it. If you zoom even lower, we can see it even better. This is our last high. Okay. So you can also see a very similar scenario now when we go and check Bitcoin. So if we see this, then the bulls will take over from a short-term perspective and to start the correction. However, I would like to see any bearish versus bullish versus pattern, like a double bottom, for example, or anything here. Okay, so this is what I'm waiting for on US 500. Meanwhile, let me make this one appear. Where is it? Okay, so now let's go for this channel here, and let's delete this one. Okay, since now this one is already done, we broke below it, we traded lower, so this is basically it. Okay, now around the lower bound, speculating this correction till this area here, which is the previous support, now turned into a resistance. Of course, from a long-term perspective, all right, from a long-term perspective, this is the channel that we saw from daily. Let me make it appear on weekly to show you a detailed analysis. Okay, so this is it. So first, I would like to see this and then a break above it for the correction movement to start. And then later on, of course, from a long-term perspective, we need to see this and a break above it for the bullish trend to resume and to expect a bullish movement. For now, we are still bearish. We can still drop lower and lower. We're expecting a rejection from here unless we break below it. Then a movement till this area would be expected. A very similar scenario on US 100. All right, here we go. And of course, as I mentioned last week as well, we want the bulls to take over by breaking above this area. Meanwhile, the bears can still kick in and break this one downward, which is a head and shoulders, break it downward, and we trade it lower. So the exact same analysis on US 500. As I mentioned also last week, that this break is not enough to me. I want a break above the 13K as well to confirm that the buyers are finally taking over, which obviously didn't happen. Okay, this was the consolidation. We broke below it and we traded lower. Okay, now from daily time frame, we are retesting this lower trend line in orange, as you clearly see, and the 11K. The 11K is also a strong demand zone and obviously a round number. So this is it, the exact same zone we saw on US 500, which is now around 3.7K. On US 100 as the 11K, and if broken down, a movement to the 10K would be expected, which is the previous high, all-time high and high, and the demand zone, just like US 500 as well. Here we go, previous high and so on. Okay, and so I'm following the same logic on lower time frames for US 100. This is our last high, so we want to break above it for the buyers to take over, but I can't really mention anything for now. Let's see if we'll get any bullish reversal setup, like for example a double bottom, a 1 to 3 pattern, or any bullish reversal setup. On US 30, we've got two possible scenarios. Here we go, right? So like I still have my drawings here from last week. So waiting for this, for the bulls to take over, or for this break downward for a movement lower. And as you can see, the price followed the lower scenario. We broke below it, of course, just like US 500. Your entry could be here. The stop is above the previous high, and you target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio. Okay, now retesting the lower bound and looking for buy stops around the 3K round 30K, sorry, 30K round number, also approaching this previous high at demand zone. So we are speculating a bullish movement from here, unless it's broken downward, then a movement to the next one would be expected. Okay, for now we are looking for or speculating a bullish reversal. From here, of course, we want the bulls to prove to us that they are strong enough to take over by breaking above the previous high. Of course, I can't really mention anything after this aggressive drop, but this is the last major high that for the bulls to take over, we need to see a break above it. Of course, like we can see this and then price trades lower. This is why I would like to see like any bearish reversal pattern, like a double bottom, and I would like to see like also a bigger consolidation here before we trade higher. Okay, last but not least, we have Bank Nifty, as I mentioned last week as well, if you remember, because someone requested it. If you break below this zone, then a further movement downward would be expected. Or for the bulls to take over, we need a break above the previous high, which obviously didn't happen, right? So I guess we were here last week waiting for this to happen. Didn't happen. Broke below this, which I also mentioned that the bears would take over if we break below it. From weekly time frame, from a long-term perspective, we want to see this and a break above it for the bulls to take over, and we keep on trading higher. For now, as we approach this lower area, which is also a very strong resistance turned into a support, we'll be looking for buy setups. So just like US 500, now approaching the support area, waiting for the bulls to take over again. I don't really have anything to mention for now, not even from M30 time frame. So I don't really have anything to say here, but I'm waiting for a consolidation here and a break above it to like to expect that the bulls are taking over. Meanwhile, we can still dive inside the support like this, form this here before the bulls take over. So I will draw it for the reference for next week. Okay, many comments. Juan, margin call MicroStrategy stock today is going down under 100 stocks. Stock plus trader lost in 3 days a month, $3 billion for crypto. Yes, not very good time for crypto. I'll go over it now. Like we've done Forex, we've done indices. Now it's time for crypto. So we'll check it out from a technical perspective. Unfortunately, Mahdi and Okudi I'm sorry about that, but I can't really go for EURJPY now. Maybe after we go over crypto ones, I'll check it out. We already went over multiple JPY pairs, GBPJPY, AUDJPY, and so on. So when I end the session, you can watch the recording. Okay, not yet. Hello, Damien. Hope you're doing good. Hello, hope you're doing good. I'm glad that you made it, even though a little bit late, but you are good. You can still watch the recording. We already done the forex pairs. We went over. Let me show you. We went over these ones. Okay, so the XY USD, like the USD pairs, and JPY pairs, and EURCAD, CHF, even NZDCAD. So we went over a big list today. We updated our last week watch list, and I showed multiple setups that I'm personally waiting for. And now we went over US 500, US 100, and so on. And now we'll go over the crypto ones. Okay. Of course, you can follow me on TradingView. This is my handle, the signalist. Okay, so I also post like analysis here, as you clearly see. I post stocks, crypto, forex, and so on. And you can also join the Telegram channel, which you can see here. Also, the signalist, if you want to get notified when I post a new content on TradingView and YouTube. Okay, so this is it. Now let's move forward and go over the. Okay, you're more than welcome. We already went over gold, so you can also check it out when we finish the session. You can watch you can watch the recording. If you want, long story short, waiting for a retest to look for sell setups. Okay, gentlemen, fantastic. Okay, let's take a sip as a little break and move to total. Okay. So of course, total USDT dominance, Bitcoin, Ethereum to feel the overall market. And then we'll be diving over the remaining ones. I have a big list. I'll go over as much as I can. So feel free to request any crypto instrument that you would like me to go over, and I will add it to the list. Okay, but for now, I'll do these four, and then I will check the comments. Okay, let's move forward. Where is it? Yeah. Okay, so on total, we know that we are overall bearish. We were struggling around this area, and as I mentioned last week, we are waiting for the bulls or the bears to win this battle. Okay, we have been stuck inside the range for a long period of time, like it became boring, if you remember, right? So we have been stuck inside this for a while, and I've been waiting for a break, either upward or downward. If we have this break, the buyers will take over to start the correction from here. Or as I mentioned last week, for those who watched the previous episode, you can also watch it for it to be a good practical example that for the bears to take over, we need to see a momentum candle close below this area from H4, and from daily time frame it would be even better. So here we go. Okay, so that's basically it. We had this break and we traded it lower. For those who traded on margin, of course, like you can't really trade total, but you know what I mean. You can trade Bitcoin and so on, which you can see a very similar scenario. Here we go. So on Bitcoin, we have this break, we trade it lower. For those traded on margin, can go for a stop loss above the previous high and target 1 to 2 risk-to-reward ratio, just like we do in Forex. So now let's move forward to total first. Okay, so on total, we know that we are diving inside the zone. It's indeed a strong demand zone. If you zoom in, we can see it even better. The 1 trillion round number, which is already broken, of course, like this. And we have a demand zone because inside this big bullish movement previously, right, we know that we price paused around this area. So that's definitely a demand zone, which was still fresh. So now price is filling this demand. It's an entire big zone. So until like this area here. So once still dive inside the demand zone, test the lower trend line here, acting as a oversold area or non-horizontal support. You can see this channel all over the place on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all altcoins. This is a good area to reject the price upward, of course. And we also got the 500 billion, or this area around like 550 billion, which is this demand zone, as we also had this consolidation here inside this big bullish movement. Okay, and that's basically it for total. If you zoom into daily, as I mentioned, we broke below this consolidation, we traded lower. If you go to H4 time frame, here we go. I don't know why this one is upward. That's it. Okay, so for the bulls to take over now, and to start, of course, not to take over from a long-term perspective, to start the correction, we need to see this movement here. Okay, we need to see a breakup of this high. Let me put it here. Okay, of course, I can't really know how it will happen. Maybe like this, maybe here, maybe we'll have an aggressive movement downward to grab some liquidity here from around 550 billion, or the lower trend line here around 600 billion. Okay, we can't really know, like of course, until the bulls take over. If you want to zoom in from a short-term perspective, you can zoom in, and this is the last minor high. Okay, you can even see it from a lower time frame, and you can see this minor high all over the place as well. If you go to USDT dominance, which is exactly the opposite, as I mentioned last week, for the bears to take over on USDT, which would be the bulls taking over on the crypto market, we wanted to see this movement, which obviously didn't happen. Instead, we broke this range upward. This is the candle close, and then we traded higher. Okay, so now we are definitely bullish on USDT dominance, of course, starting from here. And we had this aggressive movement upward. We had a rejection from here. So let's see on lower time frames. Here we go. Okay, the last high we saw on total, this is the last low here. So for the bears to take over, okay, and start the correction till this area, we need a break below this previous low. Okay, meanwhile, we can still trade higher a little bit before we trade lower, but this is a low that I'm keeping an eye on. If we have it, then we can expect a relief, a correction on the crypto market. The exact same opposite. This is a high since we started from lower time frames, right? So if you go to weekly time frame, we had a 30K zone, which was a massive zone, right? So unfortunately, it's broken downward. I had my alert. If you remember last week, I told you I have my alert around this area, around 27 something, which was below this area. So when this happens, we had this break. Then of course this is a signal, as I kept on mentioning multiple times previously, last week, the previous week, and so on. If this happens, it wouldn't be good for the crypto market, and we will have this movement lower. Now I have my alert around the 20K, which didn't go off yet. So I'm looking for buy stops here around the 20K support. So yeah, we might still test it before we trade higher. So the best took over. Of course, you would also trade it on margin. You can enter the sell here. Now, if you go to daily time frame, you can see it even better. Now approaching this demand zone. If you go to weekly time frame, you can see it even better. That's a demand. Here we go. Because inside this big bullish movement, this is the only time we had a consolidation, right? That's why it's a demand zone. And as price retested, we'll be speculating or expecting a movement upward. Now, since we have this big impulse movement, we can draw what? We can draw a trend line which is following the price action more. So how do we do it? We simply go higher, because now we have this big impulse, a correction, and a big impulse movement lower, right? So we can connect the previous highs, and here we go, make an offset for it. That's it. Oops. Okay, so now what we'll be waiting for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective, we'll be waiting for this. Okay, a rejection from here and a break above it. Okay, it would be a support turned into a resistance, and of course when we see this correction, This is a resistance that might hold the price down, and we want to see a higher low instead of a lower low, right? Because we might still see correction, correction, impulse, correction, impulse. We might still see this, okay? So that around 10K here before making a new high and finally breaking upward for the bulls to take over. So these are the two possible scenarios: this high being broken or this high being broken, and these two highs aren't formed yet. Okay, so I'm just like showing you what to look for to have a full reversal from a long-term perspective. Anyway, we'll keep updating next week, because like for this to happen, it will need multiple weeks because this is weekly time frame. But like from a broader view, from a long-term vision, this is what I'm waiting for. Now I'm be looking for a correction buy around the 20K. So as I mentioned, I have my alert around the 20K. So I'm looking for a bullish reversal from H1. This is our last high. So for the bull to take over, we need to see a break above it. In this case, we'll be expecting this correction. Meanwhile, we can still reject it, trade lower and lower, form a bullish reversal setup before trading higher. In this case, we'll be looking for a buy here, and we'll be looking for a sell here, which is around the upper trend line from weekly. Let me make it appear on okay, AM30, I guess. Yeah. Oops, H1. Okay, where is our trend line? Yeah, this is it. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Let me check the comments real quick. Okay, fantastic. Let's move forward. On Ethereum, a very similar scenario, a very similar channel, and so on. Sorry. Okay, I had my alert around the 1.5K. It went off, and we kept trading lower. As I mentioned last week, if you remember, yes, we can still dive lower and lower. The reason why is because I made a projection here. Here we go, date, price, and range from here till here, and we drag and dropped it till here. So yeah, we might still see this. Okay, so and now we saw it, a big impulse movement, a correction, a big impulse movement. So now we are speculating a correction. We can't know where it will happen. It might reject the 1K now, okay, and trade higher to have this correction. In this case, waiting for this, and then this, the same vision that we are looking for from for a bullish, long-term bullish reversal. For now, the 1K, I have my alert around it, is the next key rejection in my opinion. And of course, later on, we've got the 600 or the 500. Here we go, which is this demand zone, as we had an aggressive movement output from it. And of course, the 500, but it's like, as you can see, we've got this previous lows here around 330. Okay, but anyway, let's keep it like sorry. Okay, so, sorry about that. Damien, we had 200 MA like all previous big corrections. I personally don't check moving averages, but yeah, it can act as a dynamic or non-horizontal support and resistance. Okay, and yes, on weekly we already have a very strong support area, and the intersection with the lower trend line here, as you can see, acting as an oversold, and in my opinion, or non-horizontal support. So around the lower bound, looking for buy setups, and we were waiting for this break to happen, which didn't obviously happen. So let me repeat my alerts, and then previously price retest this area. I was forming a bullish reversal setup like a head and shoulders. That's why I had my neckline here and I had my alert here, which obviously didn't happen. So that's also deleted. Okay, so like I'm now updating my chart like now live because I haven't had the chance to check it out. So yeah, that's basically it. The lower is broken. Let's go for this. Okay, I don't like this trend line. Like because the distance between the swings isn't like engulfing the overall movement. So that's basically it. Waiting for this, and I posted this one on TradingView like just yesterday, that we've got this looking for buy stops here around the 1K. We have a demand, a non-horizontal support, and a round number 1K. So I'm waiting for it to approach this area to look for buy setups. That's basically, I don't really have much to add. This is our last high. So we might have an inverse head and shoulders like this, for example. It would be good, but I would like to see it diving around the 1K for it to be more oversold. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, on ping, like Mac requested like this one last week. That's why we had it. Okay, so I'll do it anyway now. So I don't have really much to add because we don't have enough data. This one is still new. But we have round numbers 0.0005, 0.001, and for the push to take over, we can see that the big impulse movements are now getting smaller, right? So big impulse movement, smaller impulse, an even smaller one, and it's going flat. And you can see the shift in momentum in action, right? So now we are flat. We want to see this. To see this, we need a break, and this is the drawing from last week. We need a break above this area here, not only above the 0.001. For extra confirmation due to the current market conditions, I would like to see this. From a short-term perspective, of course, we have this high here, but like I will personally not go for this one. I'll wait for at least the 0.001, and this one here. Okay, on GMT, we also had it last week. Let me check the comments real quick. Okay, nothing to mention for now. Okay, fantastic. So on GMT, if you remember, we also had these drawings from last week. We were waiting for the boost to take over because we were around a demand zone. We can see it from daily time frame. That's an aggressive movement upward. Okay, this is an entire demand from 0.7 to 0.6. That's why we are speculating this bullish movement. We are currently trading inside a wedge pattern, which we can see better from lower time frames. This is drawing from H1, I guess. Yeah. So we were waiting for a break above it, which didn't happen. That's why you can see my two alerts here. That's the power of waiting for extra confirmation. So didn't happen, obviously. Let me read my alerts. So sorry if I'm doing it live, but anyway, it would be a good practical example because I didn't have the time to. Okay, so didn't happen. I'll delete this one and I'll keep this one for now. Okay, I will extend this trend line, and as I showed you, we have like a big channel or like a wedge pattern. For now, let's keep it as a channel. So now, of course, waiting for this to happen, and here we go. But of course, I would like to also see a break above the one round number if it happens here for extra confirmation. So anyway, let's see how it goes. But I also want to see, as I mentioned, a break above the one. So this is what I'm waiting for on GMT. Meanwhile, we can still trade lower, lower, and lower. That's the power of waiting for extra confirmation. On APE, we can see a very similar scenario. Also last week, I had my alerts here as well. Didn't go off. Let's delete it. Okay, waiting for this to happen. Didn't happen. We kept on moving lower. Let's extend it, just like GMT, extend this one as well. Waiting for this to happen and a break above it. I would like to see also a break above the 5, so I would be happy if this will happen. Okay, so that's basically it. Also approaching a, here we go. So I can't really add much for this one, but the one round number would be a strong one, and the 2.5 as well, because I don't really have much data to go for supply and resistance, and we don't really even have supply and demand zones. On DOT, okay, so we're waiting for a break above this last week, which obviously didn't happen. I had my alert here, which was from H4. Yeah, this is it, from H4. So it didn't happen. We kept on trading lower. So now let's delete it and let's update our analysis while waiting for this to happen. And here we go. Okay. You can even extend it, and here we go. You can find multiple rejections from this area. This is what I'm waiting for on DOT. It's definitely around a very strong demand zone, which you can clearly see here, an aggressive movement upward from it. And yeah, of course, from a long-term perspective, just like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on, we'll be waiting for this to happen. So of course, as we approach, here we go. This is for the buy setup. As we approach the upper trend line here, we'll be looking for trend following sell setups. And when this happens, the stop loss would be above the previous Okay, here we go. For those to trade on margin and 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio. I guess we also have one on FTT. Yeah, on FTT, I also posted this one on TradingView that we are currently around a very strong support area and a demand as well. So I'm looking for buy stops. Here we go, around 22. Let's make it in blue. So a very strong support area, looking for buy setups, of course, waiting for the boost to take over. If you zoom into daily time frame, this is a channel approaching the lower bound as well. If you zoom into H4, this is our channel. So I was waiting for a break above this. That's why I have my alert here. And I think for now, I'll keep my alert because like it's still valid. We might also see, for example, like this, it would be an inverse head and shoulders pattern, right? So anyway, let's wait for it. What I want is a break above this to go long. In this case, if this happens, the stop loss would be below the previous low. We target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio, which would be around the upper trend line here, and also this supply zone as we see an aggressive movement down from it. Of course, here we'll be looking for trend following sell setups. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you want me to go over a specific crypto instrument, let me know. I'll go over like a couple of ones more, and then we will end the session. Cheers. Let me take a little break. Okay, on ROON, also we had a support area right previously. Now it's broken downward. Now the next support would be, or rejection area would be around 1.3, 1.5, which is this demand zone here. Here we go. This is this bearish candle. Now we are looking for buy setups. If you go to H4 time frame, we had like this channel and so on. And if you remember, I had my alert here. It's still here. Like it has been here for like a couple of weeks now. That I'm waiting. I was waiting for this to happen. Didn't happen. Obviously, broke below the previous low, cap trading lower. So for now, I'm still waiting for this. I don't really have much to add for ROON. We went over FTT. Okay, on STX, it's a very similar to ROON, and also Zcash, ZEC. That's why I'm going over it quickly, because like to cover as many cases as possible. On Send as well, a very similar analysis. Daily channel approaching a demand zone. Look at how strong this demand zone is, right? So that's why I'm looking for buy stops already. And yeah, this is the one from a long-term perspective. From a shorter term perspective, you can even zoom in and in and in. It depends on your trading style, on your trading plan, and so on. So that's it. And let's do one more. Yeah, if you remember on TTRX, we were around the upper area. We were overbought around here, right? If you remember, we were looking for a bearish movement, or that's why I have my alert here for the bulls to take over and then to break it upward, which is a resistance. Then we'll be looking for buy stops on the retest, okay, which didn't happen. Instead, we played it lower, and as mentioned last week, we had our zone here, which is a big head and shoulders. We broke it downward and we traded lower. I also, if you remember, had my alert here around 0.06. So like my alert went off. Okay, that's why I don't have it anymore. So I'm looking on TRX for buy setups now. Or I still also have my alert around the 0.05. So if you drop lower, I'll be looking for buy stops here. So let's see how it goes. I'm now waiting for this consolidation to be broken upwards. So this is our last high. Okay. Okay, so we went over gold previously. You can see it after I end the session. You can check the recording. Okay. Click ADA and Solana. Okay, let's do these two and end the session. Okay. ADA, I guess I have it here. Okay, let me check my my recent chart because I don't have it on this one. Let's try this. Oops, not this one. I guess this one. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Okay, we can really see that ADA is around a very strong demand zone, which we can see here, and this one resulted in an aggressive movement upward from it. Now, if you zoom in, let me give it a moment. Okay, so this is it. We've got this demand zone around 0.3. Let me check. Yeah, 0.3 to 0.35. That's why you can see my alert around this area here. I don't know if you can see it. So that's why I'm looking for buy stops as price approaches this one. And we got a channel here, which we can clearly see just like Ethereum and so on. So from a long-term perspective for the bulls to take over and for a bullish long-term reversal, we need to see this, a new swing high to form here, and then a break above it. Okay, so this is from a long-term perspective. From a short-term perspective, if we see this, it will be an amazing area to look for buy stops on lower time frames to catch this correction movement upward. That's why I have my alert here. It would be an interesting area to look for buy stops. It will also be the lower trend line in green. For now, I don't want to trade ADA inside this area. So if it takes it up, I don't want to buy here. We have a supply, we have a trend line that might hold the price down. Okay, so I would like to see a high formed here and a break above it, or I would like to see price going down. I'll be looking for buy stops here around the demand 0.3 and the lower trend line. Okay, on Solana, let me see which one, because we've got multiple ones and I've got multiple layouts. So let me check. Okay, this one looks good. Okay, let's go for brown for these. Give me a moment. And yeah, so I have I have two alerts. I have this one previously here. I was waiting for a break above this break, just like dot and multiple ones, which didn't happen. And around the 20, which is this area here. Why 20? If we check the weekly time frame, we can see that this is a massive demand zone. Okay, and also multiple rejections from it. So the 20 is also a strong round number. So as price approaches this area, I'll be looking for buy setups. Here we go. And of course, as we trade, I don't know why this one is orange, it's annoying. Let's make it in blue. Okay, so if we trade higher from here, this is a massive resistance around 75. All right, so we'll be expecting a bearish movement from here. So from a long-term perspective, I'm waiting for this and then a break above it for the bulls to take over. Okay, I need a break above this resistance as well, or just like ADA, I want a movement even lower to look for buy stops here. Okay, if you zoom into H4, let me see if I have drawings. Yeah, I have drawings here. So yeah, I guess I had this one while price was here. I guess that's why I had my alerts around the previous high. So I wanted a break above it to enter my buy. So now it didn't happen, kept moving lower, but I still have my alert. I'll keep my alert here for now. But for now, if we trade lower, which I would like to see, okay, let me make it like this. Okay, so if we trade lower, it would be amazing. Maybe we'll have this or this swing high. Okay, anyway, this is what I'm waiting for. In this case, I'll be definitely buying Solana. For now, we can see trade lower and lower like this before we break it upward, and this is our last high. Okay, which I have my alert already around it. Okay, so that's basically it. We went over forex pairs, indices, crypto, and I hope you enjoyed my style. As I mentioned, you can check out my trading view profile. You can join my free Telegram, and whenever you want to take it to the next level, you can also check it down below. You can save $100 at richtl.com. So I'll hopefully see you next week, and be safe, trade safe, no matter which markets you trade. Be safe, and don't forget to like this video for a chance to reach more traders. And of course, I want to take a moment to thank Cam and Training Nut channel for this opportunity every single week. I'll see you hopefully next time. Bye bye everyone.